Hello, creeps. It's me, John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper, and you're listening to Chronicles from the Crypt.
Hello there, I'm Casualty Chris.
And this is Father Malone.
And we are the hosts of Chronicles from the Crypt, a twice-a-month look at the horror anthology series Tales from the Crypt that aired on HBO from 1989 to 1996. But to be fair, you wouldn't know it aired on HBO because HBO doesn't seem to give a shit about this show anymore.
That is true. But on each of our podcasts, we are talking about 2 episodes of the series that does exist, and you can seek it out even if HBO disavows it. In between, we do bonus episodes covering tangentially related tales ephemera. But right now, we are hip deep in season 5, or let's say calf deep.
On this episode, we're going to be talking about episodes 5 and 6 of season 5, People Who Live in Brass Hearses, and 2 for the show.
Chop 'em to the left, chop 'em to the right, chop 'em every chance you get. Fright, fright, fright! All right, creeps, it's 4th and Ghoul. They're probably expecting us to run a ghost pattern, so let's run a scream pass instead. Of course, I could pull out a few other surprises from my playbook, like tonight's tale. It's about a couple of brothers who are planning a little high scaring of their own, in a nasty bit of offense I call People Who Live in Brass Hearses.
So People Who Live in Brass Hearses aired October 13th, 1993, is directed by Russell Mulcahy, written by Mike Wallace, someone you knew in life when they were alive, Scott Nimmerfro. It stars Bill Paxton, Lainey Kazan, Brad Dourif, and Michael Lerner. And it is so convoluted that it almost verges on absurdity. I would say it does verge on absurdity in spots, but it's essentially centered around 2 brothers, Bill Paxton and Brad Dourif, who are trying to get back at a ice cream man who got Bill Paxton sent to jail.
It certainly is all of those things. He has
a butter addiction. Did I mention that?
Yeah. Bill Paxton loves to eat butter straight from the package,
like sticks of butter.
This is so weird. It definitely feels like we're living in a post Twin Peaks world when you watch an episode like this, where they've given all of these characters kind of weird addictions, and the situations are bizarre for bizarre sake. I do gotta say, most of Scott's episodes tended to be comedic and were played comedic. I appreciated that this one was effectively played straight, so that the comedy, as it were, kind of was able to come to the fore. That might be because Russell Mulcahy is a pretty solid filmmaker. I've always appreciated Russell Mulcahy's work. If you don't know, he directed Highlander, the first Highlander film. Oh, and the second one as well, which was garbage. But he was a big old music video director and slowly transitioned into film. Now, as far as the source material, this is not a Tales from the Crypt comic book they've adapted. It is instead Vault of Horror number 27, written by Bill Gaines and Al Feldstein and drawn by the amazing Jack Davis. The story itself is pretty similar, except we don't have the 2 brothers at all. In fact, what we have is a group of children who are curious about this guy in their town who drives a horse-driven 19th century hearse everywhere he goes. That's where the title comes from, People Who Live in Brass Hearses. And of course, the hearse is there because it is hiding his Siamese twin.
Boy, the title doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the context of the episode we got, does it?
No, because now we've got an ice cream man who's hiding his twin brother who is attached directly to his back.
I'll tell you what, though, it is creative.
Yeah.
It is a creative use of that. I mean, it is. But it also begs the question, again, in this Tales from the Crypt universe that we're being presented with, no one bats an eye at the fact that they've never seen this guy outside of his car.
Yeah, the weird thing about that is, like, there is a scene where we first get to meet Lainey Kazan's character where it seems as if he's out of the ice cream truck. He's actually in the warehouse with them. So a bit of a cheat there, I thought. It's like watching Cape Fear. Like there's a scene near the end where the house, the sort of maid who works in Nick Nolte's house, they clearly show her as her, and then suddenly it turns into Robert De Niro. And we're supposed to be shocked by that. But that moment in that film made me go, fuck you. Like, I know you did not just do that. And that was kind of my same reaction here. Yeah, even though I had read the comic and I kind of knew where we were going, it seemed like they were cheating a little bit there. I had a similar reaction, by the way. I know people lose their mind over The Sixth Sense, the Shyamalan film, but in that particular movie, it seemed like whatever outfit you were killed in, you continued to wear, and Bruce Willis's character had costume changes throughout the entire film, sort of stacking the deck against everything, and that's kind of what was going on here, which kind of unnerved me and made me like the episode a lot less.
I mean, the thing about this episode that really stuck out to me was the fact that it feels very much like the episode with Bobcat. The episode with Bobcat Goldthwait, where he's talking to the Don Rickles character, who also has a Siamese twin. Mm-hmm. And that's what this feels like. It feels like very much... I mean, they even have a ventriloquist dummy gag in this episode. It feels just like that episode. And, like, the payoff at the end is pretty much the same. Like, you don't even figure out what happens to Bill Paxton's character, which I found to be a little bit of a weird resolution that there is none. I guess they imply that he kills him, but he doesn't shoot him. He just knocks him out.
Well, he did blow his leg off there, or at least his foot. So at the very least, he was going to bleed out.
Sure, but like, why not just shoot him?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's this one's a weird one.
You have Bill Paxton without a leg, and then you have Michael Lerner's, Siamese twin brother missing half of a head. It's not like they're not showing gore. I just didn't get why they had him knock him out. Like, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It's fine. I mean, this episode is weird. The title makes no sense in the context of the episode. Actually makes zero sense. Absolutely no sense in the context of the episode, other than the fact that it cops the name from the original comic, which is perfectly fine, don't get me wrong, but that's not the point here.
No, it's a bit unusual. I mean, you can just say because we're having some death involved that there are hearses sort of tangentially, there's that word again, involved. But yeah, we're given an ice cream man and not a hearse at all. And certainly not, the whole episode is not predicated on death in any way, so it doesn't really hang together. I got to say that this episode at least is eminently watchable given the talent on screen. Occasionally we get an episode where, it's not very good, and it's compounded by the fact that the talent on screen is not delivering. But that's not the case here, because we've got Bill Paxton and Brad Dourif and Michael Lerner.
I just wish Bill Paxton was in a better episode, though, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what we end up saying about every episode that kind of fizzles a little bit. They're doing that particular actor a disservice. It's great that they got him, although, I'm glad Bill Paxton. Yeah,
great.
But at the same time, this is probably pre-Twister, which is when he kind of became a leading man. I think by this point he had only ever been a supporting character actor, had appeared in
Twister, by the way, great film.
Twister? Oh no, it is not. That's a terrible movie.
Okay. It's stupid, but I find it to be fun. It's entertaining for what it is. A big dumb 90s movie that's essentially Speed with tornadoes. I like it because Bill Paxton's in it, but
yeah, and he's good in it. But and some of the effects are good. I haven't watched it since it came out, so I don't know how well the effects.
Helen Hunt, though, come on.
Oh my God,
Alan Ruck.
Well,
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Sure, all these people are great. Although I gotta say, Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, not necessarily his performance, is so fucking annoying that I wanted to get up and walk out of the theater just based on him. And that's one of those movies where at one point that there are characters at a drive-in and they're watching The Shining on the drive-in screen, and I thought to myself while watching it in the theater, I just want to get up and go watch The Shining, because this is just reminding me what a good movie is and not what I'm watching on screen. But brass hearses.
You don't like Bill Paxton enough. I get it. You're not a fan of his entire filmography.
Get out of here.
You, sir, are not a fan of Bill Paxton's entire filmography if you're not a fan of Twister.
I adore Bill Paxton. I'm on record as saying his performance in Near Dark is as good as a performance as you're ever going to get out of anybody. I don't know. I always love him. He makes this character, which should be a total joke, at least believable. I don't know. That butter addiction is a little bit unusual. Like it makes me wonder if Scott actually knew somebody who did that and decided he was going to toss it in, or decided that was funny enough to throw in.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't have a fucking clue. The butter addiction subplot makes zero sense to me as far as I'm concerned. I don't get it.
Yeah, because it doesn't really play in.
It doesn't work
at all.
It doesn't work. No.
If his character had been addicted to ice cream or something, then it would at least sort of feed back into what we're given for the rest of the milieu that we're stuck in. But very, very weird. Scott was an odd human being, so I can kind of understand it. Incidentally, here's something because I knew him. The X-Men films, as it were, came about because of Scott. He worked, obviously, for Tales from the Crypt, so he had a kind of a close relationship with Richard Donner and Lauren Shuler Donner, Richard Donner's wife, Lauren Shuler Donner is the actual producer of the X-Men movies, and it was Scott who kept sort of putting the X-Men comics in her hand and saying, this is a franchise. This is a great series. You should probably look into this. So kudos to Scott for pushing that.
Yeah, because ultimately the X-Men movies are the reason we have the MCU now.
Absolutely. Like that. You could say that the Spider-Man films came along kind of at the same time and whet people's appetite for superhero movies, but really I think X-Men was what kind of got everybody involved.
Well, and let me put it this way: when there's one person cast as one role for the entirety of the role for the foreseeable future, that I think is the bigger success.
Absolutely, like Hugh Jackman as an entity owes
the Jackman.
He owes everything to Scott for pushing as hard as he was to get X-Men made.
The Jackman for sure is I think the best thing out of those X-Men movies.
Oh, certainly.
So you want to move on to the next episode?
Yes.
Is it a skip or a watch? It's
a skip for me as well. It's okay.
It's a light skip. It's a light skip. It's not one of those episodes that's like cringingly bad, like eye-rollingly stupid. It's just weird.
Yeah, a soft skip for me because the effects are real good, the performances are real good. It just doesn't really hang together for me. So moving on.
Let's move on to the next episode. 2 for the show.
I tell you, ladies and germs, that ghoul friend of mine makes me so crazy. She told me she thought she'd look good in something long and flowing. So I threw her in the Mississippi. And how about that Ernest Hemingway, always shooting his mouth off? Ooh. Hello? Anybody? I know you're out there, folks. I can hear you bleeding. Is this on? I know what this crowd wants. A little slay on words. Maybe a couple of nasty fright gags?
Get a life.
Something along the lines of tonight's nasty nugget. It's a little tale about marriage. Or if you prefer, about wife and death. I call it 2 for the show.
So 2 for the show aired October 20th, 1993. It is directed by Kevin Hooks. It is written by Gilbert Adler and A.L. Katz. And it stars David Paymer, Vincent Spano, and Tracy Lords. I always laugh whenever Tracy Lords is in anything, obviously. It's just, great. And it centers around a man, David Paymer, who murders his wife because she's cheating on him. And then Vincent Spano plays a cop who has a connection to David Paymer's character, but not in the way that you would think. And I'll tell you what, man, this episode gets me every time. I always forget what the twist is.
It's not a bad twist. It's much better than the twist we get in the comics.
I think the twist is really I think the twist is really great.
Yeah, I do too. It's something that they could not have done in the original comic, given the time frame that those comics were coming out. Now, this is, of course, not a Tales from the Crypt adaptation. This is Crime Suspense Stories number 17. And in the comic, it's very, very similar. It's a guy who kills his wife because he knows she's cheating on him and she's going to leave him anyway, and he has to dispose of the body, but a police detective is following him and attempting to prove that he killed the wife, and he knows that the trunk has the body in it, and it's very, very similar, although it's much more happenstance in the comic, where he's able to dispose of his trunk and switches the tag, but he just so happens to have switched with somebody else who had killed their own spouse. And so it doesn't really tie in. It's just kind of a wacky coincidence that the trunk ends up getting switched with somebody who had also committed murder, and now he's going to pay for both crimes if possible. What we get here, I think, is much more interesting, because we are expecting that the Vincent Spano character is the Tracy Lord's lover, and he's just investigating her death and trying to figure it out, but, clearly we're given a bit of a better twist than that.
I think it's a twist that works. I think it's a twist that works in a way that, like, again, I mean, I remember most of these episodes, and, you know, this is one of those twists that always gets me, because I honestly, like you said, just, you know, remember, it's just going to be Vincent Spano, and he's going to get David Paymer with both of them, but holy shit, the twist is way better than that. Way better than that.
Yeah, and, you know, so many twists are predicated on not expecting like an actor in a particular role to be a villain or hero or such and such. I think it's amusing that, you know, some 30 years, 25 years later, it doesn't click in your mind that the lover is actually a woman and that it's Vincent Spano's wife. So I think we're getting to a good place in society where we can accept that, but certainly around, like, 94, 95, or 93, whenever this episode came out originally, it was a sea change in motive. So interesting that it still works as good as it does. Maybe that speaks more to us than them, but who knows? I wonder if a 20-year-old would go, oh, it's Vincent Spano's wife, like she's the one having the affair with Tracy Lords.
I doubt it.
Oh, you think so?
I doubt it. But I'll tell you what, I think that I don't think they. I think they do a good enough job in this episode of misdirecting with Vincent Spano's character. But anytime Tracy Lords is in anything, I mean,
are we? No. She is.
She's not a good actress.
She is what she is. She does. Yeah, but you know what? Yeah, like,
which is an adult film star.
Don't hold that against her forever, because
that's fine.
If you watch
my problem is
Hairspray,
she's just
but
no.
She's really good in Crybaby. I mean, she's not a fine dramatic actress necessarily, but. I've enjoyed her performances in certain things, and it's you know, it's casting people to play what they play best, and I think she's good in the episode. Honestly, I was kind of sad that she gets killed as quickly as she does.
I like David Paymer a lot.
Yeah, he's real good. Although, speaking of Tracy Lords for a minute, she should always have bangs. I was watching this episode with Jess last night, and she's like, oh my God, her not having bangs is not doing herself any favors. And that's a fact, because not everyone can pull off bangs, but her character, like Tracy Lords, her face just screams out for them. Like it complements her on ways that a lot of people, it does the opposite. So I don't know how that figures into my review of the episode, but...
when I imagine her in my mind, she has bangs.
Yeah, because she looks real good with them.
Yeah, I like Tracy Lords a lot in this in this episode. I just don't think I don't think she's given enough to do, right?
She isn't. I mean,
she's not a great actress.
Dead by like
she's
minute
good
number
here.
5 or something.
Yeah. I don't think she's great overall as an actress. I think she's okay, but she's good here, but she's not given enough to do. And look, that's just the framing device of the episode, is she dies in the first 2 seconds, you know?
Right.
She's dead 2 minutes into the fucking episode. I mean, there you go.
She was actually in a remake of a Roger Corman film that I think Showtime was doing in the mid-90s. She did it was called Not of This Earth, which she was very creditable in. She can do the work. She again, it's just a matter of casting her appropriately. She doesn't. Look, there have been far worse actors on Tales from the Crypt that, you know, are just, you cringe from the moment you see them. I think with Tracy Lords, it's sort of a situation where we know her past, and that tends to play into our appreciation of what she can and can't do. But I liked her in this. I like her in most things, honestly. I like her in her porn days too. Just being honest.
Well, the ones that you can see.
I've actually seen them all, because it seemed like in the mid-90s those were all still available. But I'm not saying I'm proud of that.
Not anymore in 2020.
Oh no, now they're gone, certainly, as they should be.
For those of you who don't know, Tracy Lords was an adult film star, but her issue was she pretended to be 18 when she was 16 and got a lot of people, including herself, in a lot of trouble. So, nothing against the porn industry, Jesus Christ, who can even level an argument against them in regards to the necessity of porn, but doing something like that is negligent behavior on her part and dangerous behavior on her part. That's kind of the issue.
Right. I mean, clearly she was pretending to be older than she was, and I think her performances in her films led everyone to believe that she was older than she was, but that doesn't excuse the fact that kind of borders on child pornography once you get down to it, which is why those films are no longer available.
Exactly. Like I said, I am pro-sex worker, pro-pornography. You're never going to see me saying anything cross about those unless there's information that would lead me to believe otherwise. But, yeah, that's just negligent behavior on her part and dangerous behavior. Putting people's lives
I actually think it's more negligent on the fact of, on the part of the producers. Who,
well, sure, but she also knowingly did it.
Yeah, but, she was like a runaway who, like, needed to...
Oh, no, I get it. I get it.
It wasn't like she was like, I'm going to fool everyone into watching child porn. It was, I need work, and this is the best thing I can do.
No, I get it. Like I said, I completely get it. It's just, you risk putting people in jail for child pornography. Yourself included.
Yeah, it's ultimately not an ideal situation.
No. But, again, she's not given a whole lot to do in this episode. But Vincent Spano and David Paymer are great.
Yeah, they're real good in it. Vincent Spano's one of those guys who, like, I wonder why he wasn't more popular than he was. Like, because he's a solid actor, and I like him in everything I see him in, but just never sort of hit in the way he should have as a leading man. But of course, David Paymer is, an amazing character actor. He enlivens everything he's in.
He's one of the greats. He's one of
Truly.
the greats. Yeah, he's one of those.
It's nice to see him in a leading role here. That's one of the great things about Tales from the Crypt, where we get to see people stretch in ways that we would not necessarily have before. Yeah. Just a couple of episodes ago, we watched like Hector Elizondo in a lead role. Like, again, this is major character actor territory, and transitioning to leading man, at least for 22, 23 minutes here. Yeah. So yeah, real good. I mean, overall, this is effectively a love triangle, which you and I are on record as detesting. But I
detest them because there's so many of them. Like,
they're way too many. At least this was an interesting take on it.
Yeah.
It's not just the same guy falls in love with, like, Drifter falls in love with a girl, and they fuck over the husband and then they get their comeuppance. This was a little more interesting, and it's one of these episodes where I'm happy that the lead character got his.
I completely agree.
Like, he could have just
he deserved.
He could have just let that character. He could have just let Tracy Lord's character go, and it would have been fine. But no, he had to go straight to murdering.
And Vincent Spano would have gotten his, because Vincent Spano gets away with it.
He does get away with it.
He does.
The irony of Tales from the Crypt. Curse you, world.
I like this episode a lot. I actually think this is one of the better episodes we've seen in this season so far, which is shocking because I wouldn't have thought that it'd be up there. But I mean, it's pretty good. But this has been a pretty good season so far, man.
So far, man. I know this is renewing my faith in Tales from the Crypt. It's
food for thought notwithstanding, because that episode is just...
I mean, there are occasional missteps, sure, but like so far, like, even the skips, I'm not saying like this is a fucking horrible episode and you need to avoid it. I'm saying like not as good as it could be.
Yeah, I would say that this is a watch for sure.
Me too. Yeah, this is definitely a watch.
Yeah.
Good. Solid writing, good episode.
So on the next episode of Chronicles from the Crypt, we're going to be taking a look at episodes 7 and 8 of Season 5, House of Horror and Well-Cooked Hams, and our praise may be coming to a screeching halt with one of those episodes, unfortunately, or maybe both of them.
At least.
Yep. But until then, where can people find you, Father Malone?
Check me out over on my YouTube channel, Odd5 Films. Check out my series. It's called You've Never Seen. That's all I'm going to say about it. You can also hear me over on the Dreams for Sale Twilight Zone 85 podcast, and on occasion I do guest host on your primary, at least for now, primary podcast, The Culture Cast.
He mentions primary because he mentions primary because right now we launched a new podcast called Scary Stories We Tell, where we talk about true crime, spooky, paranormal, supernatural stuff. If that's your jam, which a lot of people are super into it, please check that out. It's a fun ride. It's a different ride. It's definitely not this, which is good for my sanity because I felt like I've been in kind of a box, a very small box, and I'm able to kind of flex my muscles when it comes to podcasting. So check that one out. That is over at scarystorieswetell.com. I also do a couple other podcasts. Just follow me on Twitter, Casualty_Chris. That's where you can find me. Big thanks, as always, to John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper. He did a little ditty for our intro. He's a great guy. I can say nothing but good things about John Kassir. He's a real class act dude. And make sure to check out the next episode.